Hi guys, Scott from MMA Fanboy, and as you can see, I'm in the car today. But if I didn't get the video done, it would never get done. And by the time I do the video, there'll be something else I want to talk about. So, yeah, fallout of 262, UFC 262 event. And what an event it was. Such a good card. Some really, really good fights on there. It's so good. One thing that I know is so good to have fans back. The difference it makes in terms of the atmosphere when you're watching it, man, it's so good. It's so good to have fans back. The fights have been good at like the Apex and stuff like that. And obviously we've had some great fights this year without fans during the pandemic, but it's just so nice to have that dynamic back. It just changes it. Just makes it, you just get more involved in it, you know? So good to have fans back in arenas, and hopefully we can continue that now. But yeah, UFC 262 has wrapped up. Yeah, what a card. There's some great fights. And in my last video, I talked about it being the post Khabib Nurmagomedov era in terms of the lightweight division and what happens now. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the first fight that I want to talk about is in the featherweight division, Edson Barbosa versus Shane Burgos. Damn, what a fight. What a fight. I had it probably 1-1 going into the third round. I had Edson Barbosa winning the first round. He came out really aggressive, those calf kicks. You could see Shane Burgos wasn't comfortable with that at all. He's got a boxing stance, and Edson Barbosa took advantage of that and started attacking with the calf kicks. And Edson Barbosa's stand-up, I mean, the guy is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. He's so fluid with his stand-up. He does things that other people wouldn't even think about doing. You know, he's a really dangerous striker. Can come up with knockouts from anywhere. And then, so yeah, the first round sort of had Shane Burgos on the back foot a little bit. Then in the second round, Shane Burgos comes out and starts hitting those calf kicks. You could see Edson Barbosa wasn't so comfortable with that either. And it was really interesting. It was lining up to be a really good third round. And I'll talk about the calf kicks in a minute. But then the third round comes around and Edson Barbosa knocks Shane Burgos so cold that one of the weirdest knockouts I have ever seen. I haven't seen anything like that. I mean, there's the Rory McDonald, when oh my god, Robbie Lawler hit him and he broke his nose, and it took a little bit of reaction for McDonald to then go down after he felt that pain and just couldn't take that anymore. But this was something different. I mean, Shane Burgos, you see it, Edson Barbosa cracks him, and Shane Burgos, you see on the replay, it takes him like 2 seconds, and it's almost like his eyes just fade and his body's like, yeah, I didn't like that at all. And he is out cold against the fence. And it's one of those where actually when you looked at it live, I thought there was something really wrong. I thought there was something horribly wrong with it. And it was scary, but you know, Shane Burgos is fine. So we're all good there, but just a really strange knockout. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. I'm sure lots of you have. But yeah, I mean, Edson Barbosa looks dangerous. You know, he's on two fight win streak now. Lost to Dan Ige in his featherweight debut after really getting stuck in the mud in the lightweight division. Loses to Paul Felder in there, but has looked really good at featherweight. And you know, he's 35 now, so I think this will probably be his last run towards a belt. But man, Edson Barbosa is dangerous guy. I'm looking forward to see what he can do in that featherweight division. It just sort of changes the dynamic a little bit in that featherweight division. Good to see a fight like that in there. Then we move to the co-main event. Called it. Beneil Dariush against Tony Ferguson. Called it. Yeah, I mean, let's start with Tony Ferguson. I mean, the guy is tough as nails when it comes from a physical point of view. You know, he's come out on social media now saying he does not tap. And how he didn't tap to that heel hook, I have no idea. No idea. You know, Beneil Dariush said that his knee popped. Sorry guys, I'm looking around here because I'm parked in the car park. There's people coming in and out. Like, what is that guy doing on his phone? But Beneil Dariush said that he felt his knee pop. And yeah, I mean, Ferguson, he's on a 3-fight losing streak now. It's difficult to tell because only Tony Ferguson can tell you, and he's probably not going to admit to it. But you know, the fight with Justin Gaethje, I think, has probably this. I think it looks like there's some doubts in his mind. I mean, that fight seemed to have changed him a little bit. You know, Justin Gaethje really beat him up in that fight. And then he comes off that, goes into against Charles Oliveira, and Charles Oliveira ragdolled him for 3 rounds. And it was exactly the same in this fight as well. Beneil Dariush just took control of the fight, and it wasn't even close. Like, I saw a stat that Tony Ferguson's now thrown 30 significant strikes in 30 minutes. I mean, there's just no output from Ferguson anymore. And I was right in thinking, so he brought in Freddie Roach for this camp to try and, again, get a little bit of movement in terms of stand-up, but it just wasn't a stand-up fight. Beneil Dariush decided to take it to the ground and really just dominate Tony. There wasn't anything that Tony could do to stop the takedowns. Tony Ferguson at the moment just looks like a different fighter, and I think that Justin Gaethje fight may have I think it's affected him mentally, and it looks like that. Beneil Dariush, on the other hand, you know, he is lightning at the moment. Everything the guy touches turns to gold. He did what he had to do against Tony Ferguson. Again, Tony Ferguson is always going to be a dangerous fight because he throws things and he pulls things off from tricky situations. You've seen him use a dart a lot of times from situations where no one would even think about it. I mean, he's got that dynamic striking and can strike from different areas, and his movement's a little bit weird. But Beneil Dariush just took control of the fight, same as Charles Oliveira did with him, and he looks really, really good. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the lightweight division in a minute. But Beneil Dariush, he looks heavy as well. I spoke about this in my last video. He doesn't look like a 155. He looks like a 170 guy. He's a lot thicker than Tony in there. He looked a lot bigger, and he just bullied him. So yeah, I mean, Beneil Dariush is going to be a problem in that lightweight division. And then the main event. And again, I spoke about this in my last video, but in that lightweight division, well, in any division, when you're talking about top 5 guys, it is fine margins. And Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, in that first round, Chandler rocked Oliveira. And if it wasn't for Oliveira, when he goes down, you know, Chandler rocked him. Charles Oliveira sort of went to his knees, but was moving his head, and Chandler couldn't get a strike landed on him because of his sort of head movement. He was sort of weaving on the ground. And I think if he'd have cracked him then, the fight could have been over. And, you know, again, I was impressed with Chandler in that first round. Very, very explosive. Obviously, Charles Oliveira took his back. He seemed to be quite comfortable there as well. It wasn't an issue for him. But, yeah, I think in that fight, it looked like what happened is Chandler sort of gained confidence after that first round. He's like, you know, Oliveira, really, really good on the ground. He's taken my back. I dealt with that. It's not an issue. Came out in the second round, almost too confident, almost like, you know what, I've got your number. And Charles Oliveira is so well-rounded, both stand-up and on the ground. You cannot sleep on this guy. When you look at the striking and the way he knocked Chandler out, I mean, it was just, you know, when you look at it, it's just so tight. I mean, everything is just technique. And that left hook caught Chandler, sort of spins him around, and then the fight was over from there. It was always going to be over. And yeah, there we go, some dogs barking. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. But yeah, you know, fair play to Charles Oliveira, and that guy looks just insane at the moment. You cannot discount this guy. And it's really interesting now from the point of the lightweight division, where this division is going to go. What fights you make. I mean, there's so many fights you make. We're obviously going to see now Poirier versus McGregor and what happens with that, and where then you make those fights. So for me, I would imagine that the winner of Poirier and McGregor gets the next title shot against Oliveira. What then do you do with Michael Chandler? You know, there's the option there with Gaethje coming off a title loss. You match up Chandler and Gaethje, both very kind of similar fighters. I'd love to see that fight. Tony Ferguson, I think now is kind of out of the picture. He'll probably go down and fight someone else. And then you've got Khamzat as well, who's waiting in the wings. And then you've got Beneil. Who do you give Beneil Dariush? I mean, there's so many different fights you can make in that lightweight division. Personally, Beneil Dariush, the loser of Poirier McGregor, he could fight one of them, top 5 guy. But yeah, I mean that top 6, 7 of that lightweight division. I mean, it's just Just insane. What a division that is. But yeah, UFC 262 did not disappoint. I would love to see your comments. What do you think is going to happen in the lightweight division? What matchups would you like to see? And then onwards and upwards to the next one. Next event is Fight Night. Cody Garbrandt versus Font. Really interested to see that one. Again, thanks guys. Comment as much as you like. If you like the content, subscribe, click the like button, and I'll see you soon.